Hello everybody, and welcome to the LJL officially unofficial cast coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split Week 7, Game 7. We're gonna see caster biased team of AXIZ facing off against caster biased team, the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. Let's do the opposite side of this initialize. You take AXIZ, I'll take the Hawks, and well, when we saw this matchup last time, it was the Hawks' favour.
It was the Hawks. This time though, I think AXIZ have come back after the long break into Super Week looking significantly stronger. Sadly, it wasn't enough. They put themselves at a massive mountain to climb and they couldn't quite make it, but they took down some big heads on the way. They took down, I believe it was Sengoku Gaming and CGA in Super Week, which was impressive stuff for a squad that had kind of gone 0-8 in the first few weeks of the split. I have a lot more faith in them coming into this match versus the Hawks.
Yeah, and this is also the Hawks, who also went up against similar teams. They also beat Chris Gaming Act, and they also beat Sengoku. The same teams that AXIZ also beat. Meaning, what does that mean about this level of teams? These are the two teams, well, where AXIZ are our tied joint bottom team coming into this split. The Jesters have already faced their matches, and sadly, they were unable to pick up any wins. AXIZ were able to actually pick up a win over them already throughout the day. Can AXIZ pick up another one, put themselves in that 4 and 10 bracket, and then be looking at the Hawks going, man, if we didn't start with 0-8, we took our training weights off earlier, maybe we would have found some wins. The Hawks, though, coming into this, they want a 2-0. They want to force DFM off of their top perch, and at least force Burning Core into a really interesting X and 6, well, 6 and X matchup, where whoever wins it face up against Detonation Focus Me for that 4th place slot, right?
Yeah, if the Hawks win this, they can contest for 4th. They just have to beat Burning Core. That will tie them at 7 and 7 with DFM. Of course, if they lose, then things get a little trickier. At that point, they are kind of guaranteed to be further down the standings, but it can at least drag Burning Core down to their level if they win.
Yeah, and it really won't matter. Once you're down into that lower level, it's either can you pull Burning Core with you, or can Burning Core turn around and say, actually, no, we want the tiebreaker match versus the Destination Focus Me. And if one of these teams are able to put Destination Focus Me down, that's just huge. We're already seeing Destination Focus Me not in the Gauntlet match initialize. They're not going to be there. That's already confirmed, locked. We already know who's there now. Yeah, if they don't even have priority going into this, what does that mean for Detonation Focus Me not even having side selection?
It gets a bit trickier is what it means. That said, there is room to get there yet. They've got both of these squads, Burning Core and Hawks, have a certain amount of agency left in terms of where they end up in these playoffs. That said, if you can get side selection, that's great news versus the kind of counter-pick heavy rosters of the likes of Burning Core and Hawks. Dasher likes to find a great matchup in mid lane. We know that Burning Core as well like to try and find favourable matchups to the likes of Ray Farkey for once, and being able to kind of get your side selection down to allow that a little easier is definitely something that would really favour both in a decent spot, that is.
Yeah. But now bringing it back over to our game coming up versus pitting AXIZ facing off against the Hawks. Where are we going to be favouring this matchup? Where do you expect this to go? Last time we saw this, it was a very different AXIZ roster. This is now a leveled up AXIZ, as you had already hinted abroad, and Eunyan is back in that top lane, facing off against Adamic, who has been having a pretty decent showing for his first time out, really, in a while in the OJL.
Yeah, it's been an odd one for Adamic. He's been fine when he's been left alone, or he's been strong side. Anytime he's been asked to play weak side, though, he has looked significantly more suspect. You only have to go look back at the last time the Hawks faced off against CGA to see that Gango and Grendel really put this guy in the dirt under his tier 2. And it's just those kind of stupid mistakes in side lanes where he thinks he's safe and he's not that have made this player a bit of a liability for the Hawks.
Yeah, it's a huge liability sometimes, but in the same times, that's also sometimes how they also pick up their games. And part of why this has been working so brilliantly is Adamik Tussle Dasher was the original USG lineup for a while back in 2019 summer. 2020, it's just a remake. Problem is they don't have NT now as their support, and Keymaker is no longer playing in the league as he has now retired. Facing off against AXIZ. This is an AXIZ that has leveled up, as we've already mentioned. I'm going to rip that band-aid off before potentially we jump in. Oh no, we're jumping in now. Quickly, initialize. Who is your winner coming into this game?
Oh, man. I'm going to give it AXIZ and feel awkward about it.
Okay, I'm going to go Hawks because I'm going to go with it, and we're going to lean on this bias that we're going to have for potentially both of these teams. Initialize. I hinted. I accidentally showed the game of the pick and ban phase on the screen. I'm now going to transition back over as we are now on screen. Back over. Initialize, as I say always. Take it away, sir. Take it away.
With pleasure, of course. That means that we are into game, or at least champ select here for the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming versus AXIZ. Hawks are on the blue side, and it will be Aramik in the top lane, Tussle in the jungle, Dasher in the mid lane, and then our 100-acre bot lane of Honey and Poo, rounding out the rest of that roster.
Yeah, and for AXIZ over on the red side, Unyan in that top lane, Hoggle in the jungle, Gadiadu in the mid lane, Day 1 as their bot lane carry, and Corporal as their support. Aphelios and Karma, the first two bans from AXIZ so far.
Hawks on the other side, that have bound away the set and the Camille. Uinyan in particular has been going back towards that Camille in recent weeks. So just taking that away, it's something he has favoured in the past. Has pulled off some pretty silly backdoors. Back to one particular one with the Hawks pulling that one off in spring. Ban now for AXIZ though. Not quite sure where they're going to look towards. Zoe, of course, been banned away from Gariadu by the Hawks. And maybe another focus towards a bit more of a supportive champion, or maybe they just want to look to ban out the TF, what they decided in the end. It's very strong right now, and that ability to get out to side lanes really damn fast can be really, really powerful. First pick is the Volibear.
Aggressive. Volibear has been seeing very medium to poor results throughout the LJL at best. Interesting that that's still a huge priority coming through the Hawks. They were one of the few teams that actually made if I'm recalling correctly, did make that Volibear look at least fine, as we are seeing a bunch of hovers. It was Trindamir's wife we were actually going to see. It's going to be Ashe. It's going to be the Queen of Freljord herself.
Yeah, it is locked in. Ashe is there, and yeah, part of the deal with the Volibear though is who's been picking it up. It's been teams who've been struggling a little bit. Hoglet, for example, was one of those guys who had been picking it up, and it was something he looked better on, but it wasn't quite enough. It's been taken away now by the Hawks, which I'm kind of curious to see where Hoglet goes towards. Lee Sin would be a very big change of pace for the jungler.
Huge change of pace, and what a call that's making. That's already saying that Tussle was going to be playing this. Actually, on the opposite side, when they did first play, Tussle played that Lee Sin, and Hoglet played that Volibear, so maybe they're trying to play a little bit of the mind games and say, hey, what about if we do what you did last time and you do what we did and we're now just going to beat you? Not going to have that problem, but AXIZ continuing this narrative as Dasher's LeBlanc is not going to be possible. Dasher's already picked the Azir up. And Gadiado's like, hey, you know how you went 10-1 and 10 and made my day horrible when I played Zoe? Nah, I'm going to do it to you this time round. We've already got a fair few lanes already locked up now, Initialize.
Azir versus LeBlanc is one we've seen for a while. The LeBlanc counter pink into Azir has definitely been a bit of an old bump on the response. Of course, it's Hawks who've picked up the Jhin into the Ashe, which we've been seeing increasingly over the last few weeks here in the LJL. Seems to be a pretty good matchup. It's one that LJL teams are willing to take. A bit more early agency and aggression from AXIZ, but hit that mid game. Some of those objective sort of fights where the Azir and the Jhin can set up court with soldiers and curtain calls, and that will be a hell of a minefield for AXIZ to try and navigate. The bans coming through. Kench, that was banned by AXIZ. The response is barred away from Corporal. Ashe barred. Pretty nasty lane with the range slows and binds you can set up.
Yeah, huge. And it's always interesting to think we are still playing on patch 10.14, not 10.15. And it's always interesting to see the rise of Jhin slowly coming when things like Kalista and Ezreal are still open. And we're just routinely seeing this Ashe highly prioritized and the Jhin always being a consistent response. Interesting. It would love to be interesting to get some information on those scrims. The rest of the bans did come through. Obviously, we've already talked about a fair few. Wukong was the last one from AXIZ. Imagine the support has to be coming in now for them. No, call me a liar. Screw it. All right.
Uinyan has loved this cannon. It's something he's definitely found
Just wants
success
it.
on in the past. Yeah, it's just locked in, feeling pretty confident that the Hawks won't have much of a response. Plus, it's a takeaway from Aramek, who has gone towards that champion before. So now I've got to see what the Hawks' response is.
That's so interesting that they decide to aggressively take that. Mordekaiser being hovered, I wouldn't hate that, actually, against a lot of what we're seeing from AXIZ here.
Take the cannon out. That's the big team fight ult just taken away from AXIZ. Like, yeah, well, that's what you were looking for. If you're in a death room, you don't get to do that.
So whatever Pooh plays here, he's always playing Exhaust, regardless of what happens here, because you have to have the Exhaust also for the cannon.
Pretty guaranteed, I agree.
Yeah, and it's also not crazy, as you do sometimes see some AD carries or even some other lane taking the extra Exhaust just because exhausting a cannon basically means you just get to win a team fight, which is so huge. All right, Corporal, what are we going to see? What hovers are we going to see? Oh, my Leona. I don't think that's a shout-out to me, though, as I think that's just going to be the lock-in. No call-outs. I'm disappointed, Corporal.
All business this time around. Ashe Leona is a hell of a lot of lockdown.
Really is.
Solar Flare plus Enchanted Crystalline Arrow definitely does a lot of work. Other side, though, Jhin and Nautilus can do a lot of that lockdown pre-6. Well, Deadly Flourish, Dredgeline, just the flat passive auto from Nautilus. Great at locking people down as well. I think Honey is wise to run that cleanse, though. I'll put that straight out there.
I absolutely agree with you. It's too scary, as well as also you could just imagine Gadiadu on this LeBlanc. I'm just going to have a distortion, gonna throw out my chain, see if I can hook you, see if I can lock you down. If I can, you're dead. Worth Honey taking it just for all the different forms of CC that can come from the tide of AXIZ. And now the question I must ask you, Initialize, as we come back over to the desk, I must ask you, who do you slightly favour in this match? As I kind of actually think AXIZ slightly won the draft, but only very, very slightly.
I
just think the pick potential they have is...
Yeah, I said they got a lot of, around 15 minutes around some of those early dragon fights, just the pick potential is pretty massive, and if they can get a good cannon flank or a Lee Sin flank, or just a good... there's a lot of ways they can get some CT down.
And yeah, that's part of it. They have so many ways, right?
Yeah. That said, I think I'll favour the Hawks, if only because I think they have a lot of ways to break the AXIZ composition. Yeah, because I just think Mordekaiser takes the cannon out, at which point you've got Azir and Volibear who can disengage, and then just a lot of... And basically then it's just onto AXIZ to try and get into the backline, which is quite hard when the range of Jhin and Azir is pretty high, with the Volibear and Nautilus offering frontline as well. I think it's a relatively even draft, I agree, but if it ever hits 20 minutes and it's even, then Azir and Jhin, I think, might run away with those late games.
Yeah, I don't disagree fully with you. The scaling that does come from a Jhin Azir is pretty solid in a lot of spots.
Azir particularly.
I think it's going to be very important to see how Eunyan's Kennen game goes, as are we going to be seeing a lot of death rounds from Adamic to get rid of him, or is it going to be a little bit too late? And if Pooh's exhaust also isn't down, Eunyan could just win a team fight almost single-handedly with the rest of his team coming in for assistance.
Absolutely, kid. And that's always a risk. But I'm quite glad the Mordekaiser's not the sole frontline, and his role is basically to make sure that Kennen is useless. Which or just take the Lee Sin out of smite fights. That's another option, right? But I appreciate that answer there, and I like the way that Mordekaiser works. I still think this is pretty competitive. These stats are a little less
would agree with... No, well, I mean, these stats would argue with you. These are pretty competitive, because when you're talking about 6th and 7th place, and they're flipping to and from between a lot of them...
Look at the difference between 6th and 7th. That's a difference of over 1,000 experience between 6th and 7th. That's a massive drop-off.
But then the gold difference is basically 100 Just 100.
Sure.
It's just 100. The dragons we're talking here is 0.5, which that's in total throughout the whole game. Comes less.
Granted.
Though the Rift Heralds is basically identical, and some of these stats are almost negligible at a point. At a point, you just have to look at it and go, a 0.1 of a 0.1, 0.2 of a dragon, what does that actually equivalent throughout the whole game when you're looking at 1 games per set? It's different. The big one, though, is that middle one, right?
Converted kills and assists, that's actually, like, the fact that the Hawks are up at 3rd for that is actually genuinely really impressive. That actually, a lot of what they're going for, they are landing. I think, especially considering they had a pretty rough start to the split, impresses me.
Oh, it impresses me as well. Like, this is the only stat that really means the Hawks, especially when they do start getting kills, they're very good at sharing it around, as well as also getting it on their carries. That is something that cannot be understated, as we have seen countless games where supports and support junglers or support mid laners end up soaking up a bunch of the kills, and then you're just like, well, I know you're playing a fasting Senna, and I know you are technically the carry, but you don't need you don't need, like, 3 of the kills and 4 assists. You could just be AFK farming and helping the team. You should only have assists. You should have all 6 assists. You shouldn't have kills. Senna needs some of these kills, and it doesn't matter. Hawks are good at figuring out the objectives and just converting that around throughout the team.
Yeah, I'll also sort of call out, actually, on the other side, AXIZ only 4.1 kills and assists, converted at, like, 15 minutes.
Really bad.
It is pretty poor. And I think it speaks to a lot of AXIZ troubles. Like, Hoglet, generally speaking, they had a pretty good first blood rate, did AXIZ. But they get first blood, maybe a second look in, and then just find nothing for 10 minutes on end. And that was a real problem, particularly efficiently. And hopefully, with the changes that we have seen in their lineup, that we'll see a little bit more proactivity. It has looked a lot brighter for them over the last week or two. Sadly, it wasn't enough for them to contest for playoffs, but it still gives them hope in this game right now. And it's not like they've got a pretty good draft here as well. It's just a certain amount of strength.
It does mean they have got a huge amount of strength coming over to them, but we're on the Rift initialize.
We are indeed.
We're on the Rift. We've got these standard runes coming out, and nothing specials here. All right.
No, I mean, there's a spellbook on Kennen, but we've seen that a fair amount. It's the fleet footwork on Jhin, but that's pretty standard as well. And no fancy invades this time around. This isn't Burning Court versus V3, where those junglers are looking to really screw each other over. I'm going to see pretty standard stuff, but maybe the slight difference is that AXIZ are just shielding their blue buff. I wondered whether they might fake a leash, but they won't do that.
And it's no harm in ever faking a leash normally.
There's that Twitter vote. AXIZ fan group definitely out in full force right now. It'll be leashless starts for both junglers on both opposing red buffs. And we're just going to see how those paths work out. Will mean that Lee Sin will be around that bot lane for an early gank, but instead it'll be Volibear around the cannon early on as well, which is definitely a room for a bit of an engage if the Death's Grasp plan out safety.
Oh, 100%.
Ooh.
But have a look at that. The AI bot, 6%, well, actually, overall 12% advantage over to AXIZ. That's huge.
It kind of is. I think that just speaks a lot to the stats of particular champions in the LJL right now. Like, Azir's not had a fantastic time. Mordekaiser and Volibear have not had fantastic times this early on. That chain missing at level 2 is really sad. The Sonic Wave does land, and it will just chunk Dasher out. But Gary Arrow missing that chain was a little bit sad. It'll just be a health bar trades in.
Yeah, I think if that chain was landed with
Force flash.
Yeah, 100% at least forcing a flash. If maybe Dasher doesn't respect it, a kill could have even come out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if he didn't respect it, I think he would have been in trouble. Either way, he gets out without burning summoners, only burns some health bar. And mid lane continues to be about the way it is. Tussle is not on vision, manages to skirt around it. Gonna look around, see if he can find some Raptors to steal, but they're not there. Instead, might look for a little bit of a gank maybe around for Gariadu, but is instead just gonna try and hang out of vision here. Still not on this ward. Just making sure Dasher is nice and safe. Tussle gets in, gets out without being spotted. May well be spotted now as this Scuttle Crab is being started by Tussle topside. But it's nice to keep the Scuttle Crab away from where that's going on. Ariari will stop the recall. That was a very aggressive recall spot, Dasher. I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure either. Why wouldn't you just go slightly further back and just chill in a bush? Just chill in a bush. There's no harm in that. Nothing wrong with chilling in a bush, but Hoglet seems to think they can get something here.
Dasher has got to shift away. There was the chain landing, but swift dash back out. But that's, half your mana bar gone already. I'm granting you got Corrupting Pot, and that's nice, but having to dash away straight away there is a little bit sad for the Azir.
Oh, hugely sad for the Azir. It's what are you doing now? You don't have any of your pressure that you normally have in lane when you just recall back. He went back for a Doran's Ring, comes back, and I was like, that wasn't so ideal. Go Cariadu.
Shift forward, but it takes a lot of health bar in trade. The shield there from the Shifting Sands kind of invalidated the proc from Gariaru and might force the recall LeBlanc. We can see that coming through now as well. But
important thing of note, because so much mana was gone for Dasher, he couldn't follow up. Even though he's got Flash, he had no mana, man. He can't follow up, has to let him go. Gariaru gets to just recall, reset, comes back with more interesting items, relatively speaking. That Dark Seal coming through is always a fun one to see. Will it be a 10-stack Dark Seal that turns into a Magi?
Gotta hope.
Or will it be a very sad seal that is the one that I commonly buy in solo queue, where it doesn't do much of anything? It's just
Tussle
helps my Corrupting Pot.
Tussle wanders in and realizes his wolves have been stolen, but of course, wolves don't reset if you don't kill them all, so that one small wolf remaining means that camp ain't resetting anytime soon. Hoglet now dashing forward, trying to get something onto Aramik, lands the Sonic Wave, but little to be found there, apart from a minor amount of...
I don't think he planned on landing that. He was just like, I'm going to just throw it out. Wow, I landed that. Cool, all right, we're going to reset, lads. Though showing himself up at that top side means immediately Tussle and the Hawks go, hello. Free Drake. You showed yourself, mate. Don't show yourself. Why'd you show yourself? We weren't going to go for it. We were just pathing around the bot side. See it. Free Drake. Advantage slowly starting to be in the side of the Hawks. They've got a minor objective advantage.
Yeah, Infernal Drake early is always a nice touch. Always scales well into the game as well. Tussle will throw down a Warden spot. Hoglet around here, just kind of pathing around. Gold lead, roughly even right now, but that's no surprise early on into this game, but kind of seeing it pretty neck and neck in most places. The CS lead for Oinyan in the top side is pretty nice, but be curious to see how much of a wave is around for Aramik to pick up, but that's kind of sometimes the reality of your melee into range match. Thus far, looking pretty good for both teams here. That slight gold lead, as we said, to AXIZ, probably off that top lane, so yeah. Oh yeah, it'll be off the top lane, most likely. I'm having a quick look at gold advantage, and Yep, it's basically 200 to 300 gold, purely just through Unyan. Everybody else is even, so... It's gone to the cold start as well, so, especially when that proc swap gets a little bit more of an advantage off that laning phase alone. Pretty good stuff for that guy. Makes sense if you're going to have these minor advantage, though Hoglet already starting the counter jungle, which isn't too surprising when he's on a Lee Sin, and this man has been having a slight level up since we started Super Week. Yeah, we did. This guy's been, lost, I think would be the way to put it. His early games have been largely ineffective outside of some good, first ganks. And after that, looking kind of a bit quiet. I mean, this game thus far has also been pretty quiet, which is not necessarily what the Lee Sin wants to see. Been spotted out on vision a little bit. But bluntly, if you're winning just through laning phase a little bit, that's probably just good news. Corporal actually roaming into this mid lane. The second chain comes out. That's just a fair amount of damage onto Dasher, but... traded back, and no flash burn for Dash, and Corporal, without level 6, doesn't have the easiest engage option as Gary dashes forward and past the Sand Soldiers again. Yeah. Pretty much nothing else to be found there apart from health bar leads. Yeah, and also worth of note, Corporal was there also partly just to deter Dasher from jumping onto Gariaru, as he was in that range where Dasher could have potentially landed a shuffle under the turret and maybe find that weird, crazy kill.
Corporal also could have just jumped on top of Dasher if you tried to do that and just said, no, stun lock you, damage comes out.
Wow.
Whoa.
Ult out from Dasher, or Tussle rather, and the enchanted crystalline arrow comes past as well. But that'll be a disengage. Would have been a 2v3 there because Aramik was around, so I'm not sure how necessary that ult was, but either way it has been burnt. As has the enchanted crystalline arrow, so ult for ult trade, all things said and done, not a lot else to be doing. And this early game continues to be not a lot going on. Might finally see some action around this Herald spawn though.
I believe part of the reason that the Hawks decided to back off was they didn't have vision on Corporal still. And the scary thing is they also didn't know his level because he had been off the map for a while. So just a random Leona ult coming out of nowhere.
Yes.
Huge problems. Also, I think day one was missing as well on the map as we saw that Ash ult come through. So last thing you want to do is just randomly face check something from AXIZ or run into them when you've got no vision of bot side and they just go, hi guys, Leona ult. Or just Ash ult, or both of them ult at the same time. You just feel real bad about it, as now this bot lane just gets to push out. Herald was, though, still taken by the Hawks. Objective, when it looks as just pure objectives, still in favour of the Hawks, though this gold slowly teetering into AXIZ's favour.
Yeah, but that was half a wave and a plate, and generally speaking, the mark for a good Herald trade is Herald is probably worth about 2 waves and 2 turret plates.
Yeah.
If the amount of time it takes you to get that Herald, you lose 2 plates and 2 waves, chances are you're not going to get that goal back. Of course, there's always that possibility. First turret's always a thing with Herald. You know, getting through those last 2 turret plates on it is great news. But the fact that it was like a turret plate and half a wave to a wave means that largely Hawks come out on top of that. They managed to find the good reset backing, and that's good news. Corporal back in the mid lane. Still not level 6, though.
No.
So, and actually now this guy's in trouble. Has to flash out from the flash dredge line attempt by Pooh, and that will mean that both supports are sans their flash for this Cloud Drake that'll be spawning in just over 30 seconds.
Yeah, and Pooh is 6. Pooh has ticked over. The only thing that's worth noting is day 1 has also ticked over to 7, whereas Honey is still level 6. Corporal, you need to hit level 7. Level 6, buddy, at some point soon.
Desperately.
Because if you don't, coming up for this upcoming team fight, it's going to be such a huge disadvantage as Gadiadu's going on to Dasher, but it's just a lot of trading at the moment. They're just a lot of slapping around each other. They should go become top laners. That's how much they're slapping each other around. Well, actually, Dasher was a top laner for a period, wasn't he?
What was? Only a split ago. As it stands, though, AXIZ now have got level 6 on Corporal, which is great news. But with the Dragon Spawn, Gariaru is going to take a bit of a trade from Sound Soldiers, and the Herald is summoned in mid. To buy priority, it is the regular trade. They get 2 turret plates, and Gariaru will have to spend a little bit of time clearing this wave out as Hoglet and Corporal look to try and find a way into this river. They didn't have vision, but they do have Hawkshot, and that offers uncontested vision pretty swiftly. Second turret or third turret plate doesn't quite go down my days. That's an auto off, and Dash is like, I really want that turret plate. Tussle is around the bow trying to contest, and in the end, the Hawks, despite putting that Rift Herald down min as the Dragon spawn, don't feel they can contest for this Dragon. Now Gario stepping forward does get that chain proc, but Dasher is pretty swift to throw his soldiers back to his tower and dash.
Well, part of the reason that they haven't been able to do that is because Eunyan does have his teleport advantage over Adamic, as Adamic had to teleport back into lane, as he's just having a pretty awful time at the moment, which is partly to be expected as Eunyan is on this cannon. But Adamic picked this Mordekaiser into the cannon. That has to be stressed. This was chosen by Adamic into this matchup. Maybe not explicitly by himself. It might have been coaches, might have been someone else. But he must have been comfortable as... Oh, Death
Here
Realm.
we go. Death Realm is down. Now Urian is in trouble. He's going to have to try and find his way out. Gets the stun. Has got the flash. But Tussle is here. They're going to try and time this right. That's the slicing Maelstrom. But the ult slaps the electric mouse into the floor. Pikachu, I choose you for the Death Realm. And he falls down for first blood to Volibear.
Yeah, Eunyan just getting caught out there. Adamic, beautiful communication by Tussle as well to really come in. It looked like Adamic almost just had that in a 1v1. Maybe he should be playing with a little bit more confidence, as Eunyan hadn't gone back for a fair while. Does immediately go back though and get that Proto Belt, which probably should have been in his inventory, as well as the Sorcerer's Shoes. Probably those should have been there probably a while ago.
Yeah, now the cannon has to teleport back. Means that is down for a while as well, so can't get those teleport flanks off. That's what he's like. I suppose the slicing maelstrom being down already means probably not necessarily worth saving the teleport for now. And yeah, you're right. He cashed in the cull, didn't back, was on components, and it was a pretty easy 2v1 on the top side. And finally, we had some actions 30 minutes into the game. It's been a quiet one thus far.
Has been. We've been able to have a fun little conversation, yeah? We've just been relaxing. I mean, the second Drake was an air Drake, which is also another reason why the Hawks aren't going to aggressively fight it. Because you want to be able to get the 3 stacks on whatever rift we end up being on, because you just know 3 stacks of either Mountain or Ocean Drake is far better than whatever you get of a 2-stack Air Drake, unless you feel like you've got a huge advantage in this game. The Hawks didn't feel they had that. Why not just try and get as much you can through mid lane, and then just kind of reserve back as both teams fight over it, but Hoglet gets the blue buff.
Execute on Resonating Strike with the Smite is pretty good news, and Hoglet will get that one out. And now he has to be a bit careful. It was a well-timed safeguard, because Pooh was around and was trying to tell him to get out of the 100-acre wood there. That would have been very aggressive home defense from Pooh. But that's not how it works out. Dasher once again dashing away. Seems to be, like living up to his namesake right now in this game.
So, we've always mentioned this 100-acre bot lane. Now, if we're able to truly get the 100-acre bot lane, obviously Volibear, Pooh has to play Volibear.
That's probably fair.
What does Honey play, is the question. Do you play Rabbit? Do you try and play a Rabbit champion?
No. So you could play Tristana and go that way. I can see that. I mean, the other argument is look, you've got to go deeper.
Okay.
You've got to think about what is
season
Honey? 3. No. You've got to think season 3 world champion AD carry was Piglet. You've got to go look back on what did Piglet play, and of course he's got his world champion skin for Vayne. So my answer is you play Vayne with that Volibear on the bot side, and you channel your inner Piglet.
Okay. So currently, Volibear isn't crazy to play.
Oh no, Honey. He's caught a little bit under tower. There's the solar flare. There's no way, but they're going to go for it anyway. Teleport now coming through. The cleanse, the flash, that is the miss on the route, but that will mean that Aramik doesn't manage to get much out there. But now AXIZ in a spot of ball, and they went for that with no wave. That was super aggressive. Now Corporal, where are you going, my friend?
Mate, what are you doing?
This is he's going for a walk. He maybe sometime he's going to try and execute here, and no, it still goes over to Honey. AXIZ? What was that?
I mean, I don't hate getting the teleport out from Aramik. Actually, I really like getting the teleport out. He also failed his flash as well. So a bunch of that went really good. I'm really unsure of the way that Corporal tried to get out of that. At least attempt to get out. I mean, I guess the assisted suicide, the attempted suicide was part of that. But you had got tapped by Honey very recently. So, okay, all right. Uncharacteristic mistake from the support bot, the support of AXIZ is where I'm going to go with that.
That's fair. I also worth pointing out, AXIZ did manage to secure first turret while that was going on.
That was
terrible summon mid and trade it back.
Oh, okay, that's how that worked. Okay, yeah, because I was about to be like, no, mid lane, but yeah, no, you were right. You're right. Why did I ever doubt you?
I am.
Why did I doubt you?
Ash Arrow in the mid lane, so that's going to be a bit of a doubt. That's fantastically changed with the Solar Flare. The Emperor's Divide will prevent too much follow-up. No flash had to be burned, though, because it just wasn't quite enough follow-up, and that Corporal's just like, that's a bit of tilt, throws up the white flag of surrender.
Yeah, he did miss the dash over with that, so that probably would have actually been a dead dasher, though I think that's what the Emperor's Divide was trying to prevent. He didn't land it, though. It doesn't matter, as we're on an Ocean Rift initialize. We haven't mentioned that, I believe. We're on an Ocean Rift. 3-stacked Ocean Rift is pretty big for both of these teams.
It definitely would be, but Hoglet does manage to get there first. That's what buying the recall of Dasher earns you at the very least. It's not a kill, but it will burn you time and presence around that Ocean Drake. It is now secured. Trade, though, is a hell of a lot of vision that Pooh and friends have placed in the top side of the jungle. Check out AXIZ red side jungle. It looks remarkably blue team favored right now.
It is blue. Babu di babu die.
Yes, I feel. Is it 95?
Yeah, it is. It is Eiffel 95.
Yeah, 95. No, it is. No, it was 95. Trying to remember what the actual word was.
Yeah. You're good.
Good. I think I said it once before and got it wrong, and you came on and literally corrected me. Yeah, so yeah. I'm nervous now about never mentioning the name. But
well, it's just because I've watched a documentary on that whole song and the group.
There's a documentary on
Oh, it's
Blue Dabadi.
it's a great Vice documentary about how the song was created, where it came from. They're all Italian and how the studio and everything. I'll send it over your way. You'll appreciate it, I'm sure.
Like, that just sounds potentially like some narcotics would be required to really enjoy that show. It's very odd.
It's actually not. Well, the video's like that, but it's actually a bunch of just indie artists just in a studio just bashing out EDM tune after EDM tune. And then turning around and going something and doing something else. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fair enough. A lot more wholesome than perhaps I was expecting, but yes, Eunyan is in trouble. The Death Realm is here, and Pikachu has been chosen once again for death.
That's not home,
Here comes the realm. And he's going to proto belt and try and find his way back to tower, but the Death's Grasp is there, the Slow is there. He's not even going to bother burning the Slicing Maelstrom. Yet might try and escape. Gets the Slicing Maelstrom out now, but it's too little, too late, and Aramik will pick up the second kill onto the cannon on the top side. That Pikachu has been struggling a little up there with the 2v1 ganks.
A part of that problem has just been the vision. AXIZ have been lacking in their vision on the top side. They're not planning on playing through Aramik, well, Eunyan rather, which makes it very aware and,
Never mind, fighting the bot side. That is a fantastic prevent with the Emperor's Divide, but it's still a kill for Hoglet, who flashed over. It's traded back now, and now under turret is Corporal, but managed to get out 1-for-1 overall. Eunyan on the top side, of course, is still dead. I saw the dead cannon. I was like, no, surely he can't have died again. But is, in fact, still dead from the last time. 4-1 is the kill score to the Hawks. And 2 turrets to 1 as well. They have got themselves about 1,000 gold lead, but not much else to write home about as we're cresting into 20 minutes here.
Yeah, and AXIZ just haven't been able to find anything that's worked out. Okay, let's have a look at this. Gariaru lands a beautiful chains, keeps it going. Hoglet, it was the Emperor's Divide that stops him. And then, he's just going to die because he's tanking it because he landed the first bit of damage. Corporal sadly lands everything else a bit too late, but is able to get out and doesn't perish this time round. That's important. The first kill on the board for AXIZ, though it doesn't matter because they still trade it back. And now this Baron's been taken. We've already seen a 20-minute Baron as, day 1 is playing Ash. Hawk's shot, denied, no, not allowed. Sengoku. Oh no, the Fukuoka Hawks, rather. God, I'm getting everyone's names confused at the moment.
It's SHG and SG. We've done that before, remember?
Countless times.
Unfortunately so. They're not even very similar teams, really.
They're not.
But
different logos, different colours, different play styles.
I mean, I grant you that NT was on USG, so that's
true.
Who the Hawks replaced. Maybe there's a little bit of a link there, but, considering we started covering the league this year, I feel that's a little bit of a reach for us.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to take a moment because I'm about to sneeze really loudly. Be right back.
I will cover for this. That's no problem. We're seeing Hoglet trying to get some vision around a bit early to be getting this Ocean Drake. You only really want to be doing it about the 45 seconds before it comes up. As AXIZ are pressuring around the map, let's have a quick check-in on the items. As we've got Morellonomicon and the Hex Tech, Sorcerer's Shoes. Eunyan's almost there, just wants the Zonya, and then you really do have that kind of the Triforce of items, except without Trinity Force itself, of items that you expect from a Kennen, as you can just run into the middle, throw the Slice and Dice down, Zonya into the middle of the team, and just go, guys, it's now on you. I've done my job.
I've returned, by the way.
Welcome back as well, sir.
It's nice to be here. I cursed myself, cast a curse myself. I couldn't sneeze. I was there I want to sneeze, but I can't sneeze.
No, of course.
And now I'm caught in that horrible halfway house, and it's miserable, man. Almost as interminable as this game state is right now. Nothing has changed for the last few minutes. Got at least an Ocean Drake coming up, and that would be Ocean Soul, in fact. Well, Ocean Soul Point, rather. AXIZ could pick that up, as you were talking about.
That's what's going to be the contention. Ruined Hurricane and play the Ruin King. Ruin King was already completed. Hurricane and those Berserker Greaves. Money has been spent aggressively. Also, Hoglet with that Black Cleaver. We're just seeing everyone. Dasher with the Stinger. Just items. I'm just naming items here.
Yes. Okay, Root onto Corporal, but he's pretty tanky with the Eclipse Shield and is fine. But now Tussle has found something of a flank, but he's now stunned in place. Hasn't had a chance to ult, but manages to get over the wall. Not the easiest dash on Volleybet, but does manage to make his way out. Eunyan has now managed to make his way in, but couldn't find the Slicing Maelstrom, was too afraid of the Death Realm, taking him out of the equation. Tussle's ultimate will now wear off, and Eunyan is still caught behind enemy lines. But that will buy AXIZ positioning on this Dragon. Aramik is still hunting for this cannon. Still trying to prevent that guy from getting in. And the Obliterate will land and donk the cannon on the head. Still taken down about half HP is this Ocean Drake. The rest of the Hawks looking to contest. Remember, Tussle has got got ultimate. Is very, very low. And that's Corporal going in with a Zenith Blade and will buy time for that Ocean Drake to go the way of AXIZ. Now the fight commences. Uinyan is still on the flank. Pooh has to flash out. The curtain call coming out, trying to make sure the Corporal doesn't die. Empress Divide does not find anything. And the AXIZ disengage with the Ocean Drake to their name. They are now at Ocean Soul Point.
And in all fairness to AXIZ, if anything, it looked like most members of the Hawks were going to perish majority of the time, rather than the side of AXIZ. Really well played. Uinyan was just basically not involved in any of it, but he was more taking Aramik also away from it. Reverse, realm, I guess? Death Realm? It's not Death Realm, it's Pikachu Realm. So is it just a Pokemon battle that they were doing for all of that? And neither one of them won because they just walked off at the end of it, but advantage AXIZ.
Yeah, that was just he wanted to be the very best was all it was.
Okay.
And of course, no one ever was 'cause no fight. Instead, of course, what kind of happened there was you saw the cannon come in behind, and then Hawks had to kind of pull back, so they didn't want to end up grouped up in the river, caught between a cannon and the rest of AXIZ, which would have been a nasty wombo combo to be involved, and they had to kind of chase the cannon away, but it lost them priority around the dragon, and you kind of saw how it played out from there, right?
So this means now that the Hawks have to engage. They have to be on point for this final dragon. As you know, AXIZ aren't going to fight them at all unless they find an absurd pick, which can happen, obviously, from both of these teams. A mistake could be made, miscommunication, or just unaware of vision of the enemy team like that. But actually a kill happening instead of Pooh getting taken for like 10 HP, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, not a lot to be found.
I got nothing else there, mate. I got nothing.
Yeah, there's not a lot else to be said. There might be a little bit more as Tussle comes barreling in with the thundering smash. Doesn't get a lot down. The kick comes out of Hoglet to buy time, but then in goes Dasher with a massive shovel. But Uinyan now responding, gets a kill back, and the Hawks thought they found the engage, but it wasn't as clean as they'd like. It is now turning around. This Mordekaiser is sending everybody to the death realm. Never mind his ultimate's name. It is 4 for 1 as Dasher goes down, but the shuffle was so clean, and now Gary Aru not there, couldn't change the fight's outcome, and the Hawks gonna move over to this Baron with that 4-man advantage.
Well, I thought it couldn't go too badly. All they had to do was not do anything for the next 5 minutes. Oh god, Gary Aru.
Ooh, that was a lot of damage from the 4th shot there. There's not a lot else to be found. Thought they disengaged with the kick, but the flash shuffle was clean. They're going to pick up a Baron, and they're going to have the first serious advantage in this game.
Yeah. Oh, and in all credit, as you said twice before, Dasher single-handedly won them that fight. And he did perish for his life, but he purely made this work. So Hoglet's a little bit up. They were trying to clear advantage. Probably day one should be doing that. Does get caught, though, by Honey. And now Tussle aggressively comes in. Does miss that. Even flashes as well. And it looks like Corporal could get out, but Dasher, you're so good. And then Uinyan tries to make up for it really aggressively. Though there's just not a lot of damage coming out from Uinyan. Doesn't get anyone low. And then the rest of the AXIZ just get absolutely deleted. Gadiaru also wasn't with the team for a lot of this. Couldn't back up his team. They all perish. Congratulations to the Hawks. That was a big objective coming on the map. And a big part of how they're going to be able to play this. AXIZ won't be able to fight around this dragon that's going to be coming up for the next minute. As they're going to still have... the Hawks are going to still have Baron. It's going to be tough. They also don't have that mid-objective control, and it's looking rough if you're AXIZ. You got the dragons early on. Well, you didn't get the first one, actually. You've got the last 3 dragons, but you're not probably going to get this last one, and your items just don't compare to where the Hawks are.
Not at the minute. It really doesn't, particularly for that Mordekaiser, who was the big recipient of kills in that fight, managed to Death Realm the Ash, put her in the dirt after she managed to get a kill onto Dasher. And just like, at this point, Honey as well, at 3 items on the Jhin. Those bullets are stinging versus a relatively squishy lineup for AXIZ. They're in their base, they're against Baron buff, and need to be a bit afraid of this shove continuing. The dive is definitely real for Hawks if they can find something with the Nautilus in particular. And remember, of course, the Volley Bear ultimate, that Stormbringer, can turn off towers for a little while as yet. Kennen got a bit of a shove on the top side, but all the while Mordekaiser gets a bot tier 2. Early advantage in this shove. For now, going the way of the Hawks, up about 3,000 gold off this Baron. Now waiting around this death bush. Teleport coming in behind. Gonna try and stop Dasher from taking this Ocean Drake. Remember, it would be Ocean Soul for AXIZ if they can secure it. Gary Arrows around the back as well. Honey caught in no man's land. Flash over for the depth charge onto Hogger, who just gets deleted. Not even the 4th bullet. You're not worthy of it, says Honey. Gets the root on a day 1, and you, my friend, certainly are. And the Ashe is assassinated by Jin. 2 kills in the jungle as AXIZ thought to try and contest around the Ocean Drake. And now, instead, they're going to get shoved in and have their base broken apart, Mass1.
Oh, absolutely. Throughout all of that as well, Dasher was able to just completely rip apart the dragon. They just keep pushing, and because the death time is already being up to about the 30-second mark, the Hawks can just keep pushing and looking at this win. They've still got 10 more seconds on this Baron.
Maelstrom, that's not bad, but you're still 3 versus 5. It's going to be too little. It's going to be too late. 2 more fall down. Aramik picks up his 4th. Hoglet is alive, but he only gets a slight kickback, and it's just Gary Aru on the fountain trying to work out whether he can find something down. Pumped up kicks don't make all that much difference. Jin gets the ace. He's 6-0-3. And the curtain call will come out across the fountain as well. Take a bow. The Hawks will move up to 6 and 7. They will tie up with Burning Core. And this last game now between the Hawks and Burning Core is all to play for, Mass1.
It really is. Congratulations to the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. Well-deserved victory by them. Commiserations to AXIZ. They will now be our 7th place team, as they did happen to pick up a win over the Rascal Jesters at the end there. But now we're going to go on a very short, momentary break as we compose ourselves before we give you our analysis on what just conspired versus them. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL, officially unofficial coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split Week 7 Game 7 just conspired in front of our very eyes. Initialized Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming facing off against AXIZ, and the Hawks prevailed over a rising AXIZ that was trying to come from the graves, but the Hawks were like a phoenix and denied anything like that, and well, they're poised to try and have a very interesting match after this. But that's before we go off on that tangent, which we will definitely have a lot of time to cover. How did this match really begin, Initialize? How did it really start out? Because it started out kind of even, relatively speaking, right?
Yeah, it did. Not a lot happened. It was pretty damn even. Slight gold lead to AXIZ, maybe, but like it was only 100 or 2 off just good CS on the top side. The Cull cash in, great news. But bluntly, you know, AXIZ had drafted themselves the Lee Sin, drafted themselves the Fiona, and they were kind of looking to find some picks early on into the game. You can see Hoglet in the enemy jungle trying to get something. Didn't really manage to get a CS lead with the counter jungling, and eventually you just have AXIZ, well, rather the Hawks comp, critical mass about 20 minutes, and Azir Volibear front to back team fighting with Jhin for support. Sounds pretty good to me.
Oh, that sounds brilliant to me. But then from there, let's really go a bit further on that, as this was part of a big problem for the for AXIZ, as they did find the slight objective advantage, but they couldn't gank the mid lane. Dasher was impossible to kill, and this was from the early few minutes of the game to far later throughout the game, right?
Yeah, he just didn't need to blow his flash mid, ever. We didn't see him blow his flash mid at all defensive. He was despite having LeBlanc come at him, despite Leona coming mid a number of times. She wasn't quite 6, which was really problematic when they were doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Lee Sin coming mid a number of times. Dasher just stayed alive. Even when they finally got him under that bot tier 2, he still went 1 for 1 and didn't burn his flash again. Like, this guy was just absolutely nightmarish to gank, and that was really problematic. And in contrast, the topside ganks were really smooth as butter for Hawks, you know? Tussle and Aramik teaming up really well with the Mordekaiser and the Volibear to just shut the cannon down really hard.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a bit more. Unyan versus Aramik. We were kind of interested to return to form for Unyan. Obviously had played a majority of this split actually down in the bot lane. Only in Super Week did we see him return to his top lane and looked far more on form and kind of revitalized to actually be playing his original role as it would be. And this is, again, another strong showing versus a top laner that had been having some interesting performances and interesting wins versus, again, Nap and Appermen. Shows that Unyan is back on form, right?
I mean, are we talking Aramik here?
Yeah, Aramik.
Apologies. Sorry. Yeah,
Aramik and Unyan have both done these victories versus
yes.
Nap and Appermen, yeah.
Yes, I'm with you. And yes, I think Unyan has been one of those really mercurial players. Like, he's had brilliant performances where he's been on things like Silas and really carried. Yes. He's on the cannon this time, and it was not very pretty. He got ganked. It was pretty hard, of course. You just get death realmed unless you're QSS. You're stuck in there. Not really much room to escape. Then the Volibear times the stun pretty well afterwards. You can slicing Maelstrom, but there's no chance that kills anybody at that point.
True.
Especially when the Mordekaiser magic resist, all of these things tied together actually did, like, Unyan was running out of options. And then even when your option then is, okay, I teleport in for a massive team fight flank, that's how we win, is I get a big team fight flank, and that's how we can out team fight the sort of the front to back and, you know, break apart Hawks comp. That's not great when Mordekaiser just matches you and gatekeeps you and says, okay, if I death realm you, it's a 4v4 and you guys don't win a 4v4 if you're not there.
No.
So I just take you out of this equation and then you're in trouble.
Yeah, and that was just kind of how a lot of the fights ended up going. I mean, Unyan was able to try and find an early lead versus Aramik, but then Aramik just had Hoglet, as you've already mentioned, came up, ganked him a few times. That's where they actually got first blood, and it just snowballed from there throughout the rest of the game. He had a phenomenal performance, and 5-0-4. You can't say he wasn't, arguably, in a lot of spots, the main carry for the Hawks in this game.
Yeah, he came but through big, was basically invalidated a lot of how AXIZ comp wanted to work with the cannon. Then there was the massive play in mid lane that really broke things open, and in that, he managed to get a hold of Ashe in the Death Realm, who was doing a lot of damage, and blew her up before getting another kill. Just really strong stuff out of the Mordekaiser that kind of meant that he was pretty unkillable and was really breaking apart what AXIZ wanted.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that, because that was the fight that, in my eyes, actually ended the game, which is wild to say because it was just such a prolonged fight. But part of that came through Dasher getting an insert jump, flash, then shuffle back. And from there, they were able to 4-for-1, right, AXIZ?
Yeah, it was 4-for-1. Gary Aru wasn't there. He was on the top side. It was a 4 versus 3 for the start of that until Unya managed to come back. And I thought maybe they'd get to turn it around after the flash shuffle because it was a decent slicing maelstrom at the end. They managed to turn it around to the 1 kill. Then Honey starts shooting. Then, of course, Aramik gets the Ashe into the death row and kills that Ashe. And suddenly, Slicing Maelstrom ends and there's no DPS left for AXIZ. Gary Aru wasn't there as well. With the Ashe dead, it's like, well, okay, Kennan's got no more abilities. Ashe is dead. The LeBlanc's not here. And they got absolutely blown up in that fight. You know, this was on the back of... Actually, the AXIZ managed to stack themselves 3 Drakes. They were on Ocean Soul Point. That was a big win condition for these guys. Had forced AXIZ in a bit of an awkward position with a decent Kennen teleport flank that forced them to be a bit respectful of the Kennen engage. And it was enough. After that mid lane play, just broke the game, got themselves the Baron. Yeah,
through the Baron, they were able to then force the next few team fights. Obviously, AXIZ wanted to try and get that Dragon, were unable to. And through that, they just brute forced their way through their base. And because the death timers were so much longer by that point, as it was about the 28, 27 minute mark by then, 30-second death timers suddenly mean it's going to take a lot of time. You're always going to be fighting a fight where it's just 4 members versus 3 or 5v3, and they were just able to brute force their way through the base, kill off members one by one, and end the game. Good job to the Hawks, right?
Yeah, completely true, and it's earned them the right to play off against Burning Core in this last match, and whoever wins that match is going to be fighting a tiebreaker against DFM for that 4th place spot, which is big for both teams. There is all to play for these guys, and it's just a massive turnaround for the Hawks in general from their horrific spring split performance.
Horrific spring split and unexciting early beginnings as well, I would argue as well. Very hit or miss in my eyes, but that does not matter as they've got themselves into a beautiful place. However, we'll talk more about that place that the Hawks and Burning Core have found themselves in after this short break. We'll see you then. Oh, look at that.